In 1898, with the science fiction genre still in its infancy, H.G. Wells published his novel, The War of the Worlds. Today, it is recognized as one of the most iconic alien invasion storylines of all time, with countless remakes, a radio broadcast, and even a musical. But no, we're not going to be talking about the 2005 Steven Spielberg remake, or the mockbuster sequel, or the 2025 remake with Ice Cube, or the musical, although the musical is good. We're going to be talking about the 1953 original, the good one. The idea of making H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds novel into a movie first came up in 1925 when Paramount Pictures acquired the rights from Wells himself. It is still unclear if the original plan was to have tripods or fighting machines in the film, but I guess they were cut due to budget constraints. So instead, we get a more traditional flying saucer type scenario, which I'm sure could be disappointing to fans of the original novel and 2005 remake, but I actually kind of like it. Although one major letdown is the aliens themselves. They just look so goofy, like something straight out of a cheap Ultra Q episode. Sorry, but I don't think I can end this video without making another tokusatsu reference. The movie begins with an all too familiar narration of why the Martians had to come to Earth, reminiscent of the novel. It goes along with some beautiful shots of matte paintings that I'm sure would be hard to do in the 50s. So then the Martians send one of their flying saucers into a little suburban town in California. These poor guys just happen to be right where the flying saucer crash landed and try to make friends with it by using a white flag. Because everybody knows you want to be friends when you wave the white flag, right? Well, apparently not the Martians, because those guys get obliterated by its heat ray. And the noise the Martians make when the heat ray is about to go off, it's so chilling and effective. As more and more Martians start to appear, the military finally goes up to see what the ruckus is about. Gee, so much for waving a white flag. But before we can get into that, I have to tell you about the characters. First, we have Dr. Forrester, played by Gene Barry, and for some reason he always reminded me of Dean's character from The Iron Giant. And then you have Sylvia Van Buren, I think, played by Anne Robinson, and since this is the 50s, she's smoking for a large portion of the movie. Anyway, Sylvia's Uncle Matthew fears no evil and walks straight into the path of the Martians, only to get obliterated along with the people waving the white flag. Rest in peace, Uncle Matthew. The military have finally had enough and release everything they have on the Martians. Unfortunately for the military, the Martians have built-in force fields, letting nothing to penetrate them. Although the military doesn't have this kind of advantage, and along with Uncle Matthew and the men waving the white flag, they get demolished by the Martians. Thanks to plot armor, Sylvia and Dr. Forrester are able to escape from the Martians in an airplane, but just barely. Dr. Forrester and Sylvia are able to find a nice little house to hide in, but their peacefulness doesn't last long as another flying saucer rams into the house, almost completely destroying it. The Martians send down some sort of probe to spy on the house, making sure nothing they don't want is going on. With no useful knowledge, the probe retreats back to the Martian ship, and just as Sylvia and Dr. Forrester think they're safe, an alien enters the house. This scene could have been so much more effective if it was just the tiniest bit more scary. But of course, this is in the 50s, so that definitely wasn't gonna happen. The power of plot armor strikes again, and Sylvia and Dr. Forrester are able to escape from the Martians without any harm. There's then a rather interesting scene about a couple of Earth scientists studying the Martians' electronic eye. It's interesting while also clearing up some stuff about the Martians. The military then devises a plan to get rid of the Martians, creating a bomb more powerful than anything used before. There is then an overly dramatic countdown, and the bomb destructs. Through the clouds, the Martians can be seen, and there is not a scratch on them. We then see the now nearly abandoned streets of California overrun with panicked crowds. Each and every person would do anything to get their hands on just a four-wheeled vehicle. Now this scene is great for a couple of reasons. For starters, it perfectly captures that claustrophobic feeling of people trampling over you. And two, once it's over, you really get a sense of how abandoned this place really is. Lucky for Dr. Forrester, he gets a front row seat of the Martians' invasion, beautifully crafted by the effects crew. Seriously, whoever was responsible deserves a pat on the back. Still looking for Sylvia, Dr. Forrester goes into a church, thinking she's in there, but she's not. Then he goes into another church, where she is in there. Good job, Dr. Forrester. So anyway, Dr. Forrester and Sylvia get reunited, there's a big happy moment, and the Martians die. How did they die? They get killed by bacteria. How do I know this? Because I actually listened to the musical. No, just kidding, it's in the movie. But seriously, listen to the musical. It's worth it. The War of the Worlds was released on August 26, 1953, and was both a critical and commercial success, grossing $2 million in domestic earnings. But I still think it gets overshadowed by Steven Spielberg's 2005 blockbuster remake, which really isn't fair because the 1953 movie is better in terms of plot, because for some reason the 2005 movie has to focus on Tom Cruise, which doesn't make sense. This isn't Top Gun. We don't care about Tom Cruise. We want to see Martians destroying cities. But you could also argue with me that the 1953 version has poor quality or something. I don't want this to get too heated because, of course, I don't know that much about the 2005 movie. So anyway, back to the review. I have very fond memories of this movie. I first watched it a couple years ago, but of course I didn't know what the heck was going on. But on a recent rewatch, I realized how important it is in terms of 50s sci-fi. Now, I believe this is the first science fiction movie to actually take itself seriously. Now, you can argue with me that Ridley Scott's Alien has that title, but I don't think so. This is very gritty, and it just, there's almost no jokes in it. I think there's one funny part in the entire movie. But then, of course, you have that one scene with the goofy-looking alien that I joked earlier looks like a cheap Ultra Q monster. Which it does. Anyway, not to get too off track, I did really enjoy this movie, and if you're just too tired of that cheesy 50s sci-fi stuff, watch this movie. It will refresh your brain, and I just really recommend it.